Good evening, boxing fans, and welcome to Enter the Ring Live on Tuesday, May the 3rd, 2022. What's up, everybody?
What's up, my brothers?
Everybody there? Everybody's live and in color?
Everybody's
Live and in color.
How's my volume? You don't hear like my fans going on and everything. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's horrible. I hear everything. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Really?
Sounds good.
Good.
Sounds good. What's up, guys? Sorry, I was just checking a couple messages real quick. Man, it's been a couple weeks. I know we got a little sidetracked again. Just life got real busy, but
yeah,
man, what a big weekend of boxing, huh, guys?
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot to talk about in a very short amount of time.
Big weekend of boxing, big weekend coming up this coming weekend, the following weekend, the week after that. We've just got a plethora. We're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we do want to talk about this last weekend's activity. Let's start off with a little introduction or a little breakdown of how's everybody going out there?
Eric, you want to go first? Okay, I'll go first. As everybody knows, I'm from the great state of Texas now. So I'm Texas. I'm trying to get a Texas draw going on. I actually had this really cool filter where it looked like I had like a Doc Holliday, like white herb mustache and stuff. So I was gonna roll with that today, but everything's going good. Weather's been a little windy. It's once again, I'm gonna reiterate. People are very different here in Texas. Being a California boy, born and raised, I'm still trying to get used to people being hospitable, people actually being polite, people actually caring and listening to what you have to say. So I hope I see more and more of it. I think it's a good tool for especially my children and their upbringing and stuff. So I enjoy it. I think I've earned it at this point in my life. So, but other than that, everything's good, man.
That's good. What about you, Eric? How's things up there? Is it still cold? Raining?
Man, it's just I'm so tired of this damn rain.
It's raining still, huh?
Guys, it's raining out there again.
Man, it hasn't stopped. I mean, today we had a little bit of a reprieve, thank God, but it's been on and off. Well, for the better part of 8 months now, 9 months.
Well, why do they keep telling us?
This is what I'm about ready to do.
Why do they keep
I'll
saying
take the wind over rain any day? Huh?
Doesn't that water from the Sierras flow down into California? They keep telling us we're in a drought again, and water rise.
No, you're not. You know what it is. They're just they're stealing the water. I mean, it's all big business anyway. Don't get me going on that one because we got a whole nother podcast we could talk about that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's been okay. I wish it were a little busier for the business, of course. But things are actually starting. It looks like it's starting to pick up. Hopefully, people are just going to, get sick of being stuck in their house because I am in Oregon. Kaiserstan or whatever. Of the Northwest. It's just horrible. But anyway. That's me. I'm just going to do what I can do and God's going to help me any way he can. So
right on.
I feel you, brother. I feel you, man.
And I'm going to enjoy this beer.
I'm going to enjoy my lemonade.
Yeah, I just got a new beer out here in Texas. Oh, you little bastard fly. And I saw it. I'm always grabbing stuff that looks like Texas, and I even got the Texas Star in my house now and it's native Texan. I thought, well, how's it going to be?
How is it? Pretty good.
It's actually not bad, man. I found out that a lot of places like Budweiser and a lot of the ones, they all brew out here. This is like their number one spot where they do it.
Well, there's a good Texas beer that I know is brewed. I want to say it's brewed in Austin, but you can find it everywhere. It's called Shinerbach.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, and it's not like it sounds like it would be like an IPA or something, but it's not. It's just a really good is it a Pilsner? It's really good. Shinerbach.
That's what this is.
Try it.
This is a Pilsner. You notice there's a lot of Pilsners out here. So
yeah.
Well, I'm doing I'll let you know. I had Katie Taylor in the fight this last weekend, and so I'm drinking a nice English lager. I know she's not English, she's Irish, but or from Ireland.
Close enough.
But hey, they're close enough. So here's to you, Katie. Great win. But you know what, Serrano, you were amazing. That fight was just
can't take nothing away from him.
You can't take.
So let's just go ahead and jump. Let's go ahead and jump right into that then. Since you segued into it, let's go ahead and say that we're going to talk about that fight that took place at the Madison Square Garden in New York. It was on DAZN Saturday. I kind of, it was nice how they kind of staggered the different events that took place. I'm not sure if there's anything really much talking about on the undercard, unless you guys want to briefly talk about Liam Smith versus Jesse Vargas.
The only thing I would say about that is, the outcome was obviously what we thought it was going to be. I think it was too big of a step for Jesse. But the one thing I will say, Jesse, I think both fighters have seen their better days. I think both fighters are kind of closing that chapter on their career. But Jesse showed a big heart. He really did. So I'll give Jesse that. He showed a big heart.
He did show a big heart, and he showed a decent chin. I just at this stage in his career, I don't even know what he's doing. Yeah. He's fighting at a weight class he doesn't belong in. He's fighting with Nonito Donaire, his trainer. Nothing against Nonito. He's an amazing fighter, but he's not a trainer.
No, he's not.
A great fighter doesn't always make a great trainer, and especially at that level where you're just going to jump in and I don't know. I don't feel sorry for Jesse one bit though, because I know a little bit about him.
That's a whole backstory that we can talk about. Yeah,
he's not the best guy in the world. So
I like what you said though, Michael. You know, not a great fighter doesn't always make a great trainer. I just watched that Joe Kawasaki documentary. Have you seen that?
Yeah,
hey guys. Hey, I apologize, guys. I got to fix my chair. My chair top's about to fall off. Let me step away for 2 seconds. All right.
I love how his dad had no boxing experience, but was able to actually, help create his son as the fighter that he was. That was pretty good. So
yeah. So let's talk about that fight then, the main event. Let's talk about Taylor Serrano. Going into that fight, I picked Serrano to pull it out. I thought she was going to stop Katie, and at about the 4th or 5th round, I thought my prediction was going to come true. Katie showed a different wrinkle. She actually boxed well for the first 3 rounds, off the back foot, and she's not normally the kind of fighter that retreats or backs up. She's usually standing right there, coming forward. Showed a completely different wrinkle to her game. There's nothing really bad you can say about either fighter. If they could go back and do it again, maybe Serrano, maybe like AJ said, maybe she just cut the ring off a little bit better and is able to trap Katie a little bit better, and she might have got her out of there about the 5th or 6th round. But God, man, what a heart Katie showed, because she was hurt in that 4th round. She was bleeding. She was hurt. She was gassed.
I think that was the 5th round. That was the 5th round.
4th and 5th.
Yeah. Okay.
The 4th and 5th, she got hurt really bad. In fact, one of those rounds, I think it was the 5th, where the referee did score at a 10-8 round. He did. Yeah, I was watching Paulie Malignaggi's podcast, and he said, that was scored a 10-8 round, even though there was no knockdown. I don't know. I've seen a lot more one-sided rounds. I didn't get called 10-8, but whatever.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
I really thought Katie was done. I thought Katie boxed amazing for the first few rounds, and then she kind of abandoned it and kind of she reverted back to the same old Katie.
The minute she did that is when she started getting tagged.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and then she pulled it out at the end. I mean, that was
once she kind of like stepped out of the fire, so her senses came back to her. She said, "You know what?" And she kind of went back in the last rounds, in the end part of the fight, went back to the boxing, like half boxing, half brawling, except for the last round. And I think that's what won her the fight.
Yeah, that 12th round was probably the best round of boxing I've seen all year.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
toe. Katie actually got a little hurt towards the very end of it. So, but Amanda took a beating. You don't see Amanda Serrano's face beat up like that.
She took some hard shots in that 12th round, and she stood up to him.
Yeah, she did very much so.
How did you guys score the fight? First 3 rounds, I had Katie all 3.
Yeah,
I scored it a draw. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I scored it a draw.
I would have been happy with the draw. I think I might have just edged Katie just a little, maybe 6-4, but 5-5 was very, very conceivable for that fight.
Yeah, I can see that. I think Katie's footwork was just brilliant, and the way she was pivoting in and out of because Serrano's got a punch. You know what I mean?
Well, remember we talked about that, Eric. We talked about that going into that fight. What I told you about that move that Katie was going to use.
Oh yeah, that pivoting. Yeah. It was it really was quite something. It was something to see. And you're right, Michael. She did pull something out that was a little bit different, because normally she would be right there toe to toe. And when she did do that in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round, that's when she was,
most vulnerable.
Questionable. Yeah. Most vulnerable. I mean, but when she was truly boxing,
and who would have thought, huh? Who would have thought that Katie Taylor could outbox Amanda Serrano for half the fight?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing, that leading up to the fight, there was so much talk about Amanda. And like I said, I've seen a lot of her past fights, but you got to look at the opponents that they're fighting against. And Amanda hasn't really. Katie, I never considered Katie very much like really fleet of foot, but she really showed a different side as far as her footwork and being light on her feet and the way that she was moving. She reverted back to a lot of her amateur tactics that she had used, the things that helped her win a gold medal. And it really showed the lack of amateur experience and the heavy footed Amanda Serrano, who was looking for that one big punch. I think Amanda, especially towards the end of the fight, really kind of like just threw her defensive skills right out the window and just was willing to absorb those punches in order to get that one big punch in on Katie and stuff.
He was trying,
yeah. And I think that kind of hurt Amanda because Amanda's a better boxer than that. I think if Amanda would have went back to boxing using the jab going to the body and the head like she was in the middle rounds, she would have been much more successful. But for some reason, she just kind of got on that. It kind of reminded me almost of that situation when Gennady was fighting against Kell Brook. And Abel Sanchez told him, "Hey, Gennady, stop looking for the big punch. Go back to doing what we know. Put the jab out there, set it up, and boom, there it is." You know?
Yeah.
But
yeah. So real briefly, where do they go from here? Do they fight a rematch? They right away started talking about a rematch, and then Eddie Hearn was quoted as saying he'd love to do it over in Ireland or somewhere in the UK, which I don't think Serrano would have any problem going over there. But this time, though, man, they reported each got $1 million for this fight. They should at least double that for those girls.
I'm sure they'll get more.
Because man, they earned every penny of that of their fight purse. Man, that was
I honestly think at a rematch, I think that it's still going to be a tough fight. Don't get me wrong, and it'll still be.
I think
it could go the other way in a rematch. It could go the other way. But what could you imagine if Serrano wins the rematch and then there's a third fight? What is left for them after 3 fights?
That's it.
They'd be a shells of themselves after those first 2. If the second one was anything like the first one.
Yeah,
I think Katie beats her by a wider margin this time because I think going back and she's got a good team and going back and look at the video, she's going to see where when she abandoned her boxing skills and she kind of fell into Serrano's trap and kind of let her ego get up and went toe to toe. That was her mistake. If she gets out there and she boxes and stuff, she might get a big enough lead to where she can cruise the last couple. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But Amanda, on the other hand, is going to have to look at it and say, hey, I got to improve my boxing skills. I just can't go in there and look for a big punch and take 3 or 4 punches to land one. That's not going to win me a decision, especially in Ireland.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and then let's jump to the card that took place on ESPN because I know we're gonna close off by talking about the fights coming up this weekend. Let's talk about the ESPN card. I'm not gonna lie. I did not watch a lot of the undercard. To me, there was nothing that was really piquing my interest.
I didn't watch any of the undercard.
I watched a teeny bit of it. I was kind of going back and forth, but I don't know. Was there anything on the prelims that AJ it's worth talking about?
Or maybe I saw the one.
What I was actually shocked to see or not see was someone like a Carlos Balderas on that card because he is a 130 pounder. He went from 135 down to 130, and then it was a top rank show. I know that they're trying to spotlight this. What's that kid's name? Keyshawn Davis. They're trying to spotlight
who actually did not look very good. Did not look very good at all.
No, I mean, he got lucky in that last round and caught that guy with a good shot, and the referee jumped in and stopped it. But yeah, he didn't look all too good. He talks way too much, and there's way too much hype for a guy who hasn't done anything really.
Yeah, Nico Walsh fought. Yeah, it was actually probably one of his better fights. I'm sorry, I'm killing a fly right here. It's driving me nuts right now, dude. He beat a guy that I wouldn't say he was all that skilled, but I mean, he did land a nice punch and stuff that kind of put the guy to sleep. But other than that,
he's a nice kid, Nico Aliwash. He seems like a real good kid, but I don't know.
No, he's a good kid. He's a good kid.
I don't know if the kids. I don't know.
The one that really, other than obviously we're going to talk about the Oscar Valdez, Shakur Stevenson's, was Andre Cortez against Bosque. And that fight really got to me because there's so much hype behind this Cortez, especially coming off that win over Genesis Cervania, the one who actually dropped Oscar Valdez a couple years ago. Cervania was fighting out of his weight class, and this kid just looked very vulnerable. I mean, he reminded me no different than that Martinez, the one that fights with Top Rank 2 that they were pushing so hard he ended up losing a decision just not that long ago. Top Rank has this plethora of these young fighters coming up, and they're just putting way too much shine on them right now at this point, especially with the opposition that they're finding. It just seems like right when they step up against a guy that actually has got a pulse, they tumble right down the stairs.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go ahead and talk about the main event. Shakur Stevenson wins a 12-round unanimous decision over Oscar Valdez. I was excited for the fight. I kind of figured about 3-4 rounds into it. I kind of knew it was just kind of I don't know if you want to call it what you want to call it, but it pretty much laid the blueprint for how the rest of the fight was going to go. Oscar was going to chase, try to land a big punch. Shakur was going to do just enough to stay out of range, hold when he needed to, move when he needed to. I was actually shocked. Never once did Oscar Valdez even attempt to clinch.
No,
he got hit with some pretty good shots, but I think Paulie Malignaggi said it today on his breakdown, and it was actually Brent. He said what I think we were saying right after the fight. The bottom line was this: Oscar Valdez, anything he landed had zero effect on Shakur. They said that now they're saying he hydrated up to 155 for the fight.
Jesus Christ.
Oscar was probably all of about 140, 142. I met Oscar Valdez a few months ago in Arizona at some fights there. I thought he's smaller than Maximus Castro.
Wow.
I thought he was 122 pounder. That's what he looks like. I knew he was fighting at 130 now. And I says, why are you fighting at 130? This guy could probably easily still make 126, but maybe the lack of discipline or whatever, he doesn't want to have to shed those last 5 pounds. He just physically was not big enough to discourage Stevenson. That's what it comes down to. Stevenson's a very skilled fighter. He is very skilled. It's too bad his persona is utter trash. Everything. Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw what happened after the fight at the MGM.
I did. I saw what happened.
There was a major melee.
I actually that happened. Full story. I saw a thing on it. Full story of what exactly happened. His family was kind of like a Bud Crawford situation. They're little self-entitled. They think that they run the show when they're there.
They're thinking because Shakur is making money, they're all going to just ride his coattails into some type of relevance. Like nobody cares.
And it wasn't just Shakur's family. It was actually Keyshawn Davis was one of the ones. He was actually one of the biggest instigators of the whole situation.
Yeah.
So I mean, the whole situation was they're out of control with security. I have to give credit, man, to security out there. What was it in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah, it was at the MGM.
They did not step down one bit. They were in their faces and got them out of there, man. They were like, hey, this ain't going to happen. And, so
I've seen so many fights there in Vegas, and I've yet to see something like that in person. Even when Mayweather fought Hatton and all those Brits were across the pond, remember we were there. There's just, I don't know. Like I said, it's indicative of the kind of people Shakur and Keyshawn Davis there's that his family and followers are going to follow suit. Yep, and they're just really very, very low class people. I don't care if I'm offending somebody. They're just very, very low class people. And I mean, come on, man, you're in Vegas. It was a successful event. Your guy won the fight. Why? I don't know.
Well, the sad thing is though, is a guy like Bob Arum who preaches, being straightforward and ethics and, being, professional. He's not going to do a single thing about it. He's not going to punish Davis for his antics. He's not going to punish Shakur. He's not going to punish anybody.
If remember a couple years ago, less than 2 years ago, that incident that took place in Miami when Shakur was out there with his entourage. Yeah. And they messed with that guy's girlfriend. They
attacked some guy. Yeah.
And they attacked a female. They literally put hands on a female, and Bob Arum and Brad Goodman and all those guys at Top Rank right away, man, they threw their PR team in motion and squashed that whole incident. So once again, this is not something that, he beat the fighter that I wanted to win, because I have no vested interest in Oscar Valdez. I wanted him to win the fight. I probably in my mind knew he really didn't have a good shot, especially after I saw what they look like once they got in the ring. I think, Eric, you said something to me. Yeah. You texted me something. I was like, good Lord. He looked like a welterweight fighting a junior lightweight. Yep. It was ridiculous.
I had a big issue with the weigh-in, because if you notice the weigh-in, there's got to be some questions. And I know in the UK, they're starting to do it. And what they're doing is they're actually showing a side screen, a picture-in-picture of the actual scale when these fighters are getting on there. When Shakur got on the scale, his reaction when he jumped off and he had this look, and then they covered it with the banner thing, and he had to take his underwear off, and then supposedly he made it. I question what Shakur's actual weight was going into this fight. They talk about Oscar Valdez being dirty in the past, things that he's had that's happened with him and stuff like this. Shakur Stevenson is taking a page out of it. I hate to say this because, I respect the guy, the late Arturo Gatti, but he's a weight bully. They talk about guys like Jaime Munguia. Shakur's yet to get in there with a guy who's actually his size. Jamel Herring was close, but Jamel Herring was a fighter with no heart, so I don't even consider him.
I just heard that he's coming back and fighting again on ESPN. Why? Why?
But the thing is that's going to be Shakur's downfall. It's going to be the same situation like what happened to Miguel Puchel. Puchel got caught by Shakur because whatever. But when Miguel Puchel stepped up against Nicotilla, a big guy who was equally as big as him. You saw what happened. When Shakur gets in there with a guy who's actually is physically as big as him, is as quick as him, and has good skills, it's going to be a different story. Shakur's going to have to, he's not going to be able to. And the fact that Bayless allowed Shakur to use that measuring with his arm and just holding it
horrible rep
time and time again, not to mention the 7 low blows I counted of him
at least
Oscar
at least
Yes.
7.
Now,
Yeah,
one
and Paul,
warning.
ridiculous.
Paulie alluded to that as well. Paulie said, I saw very
Ridiculous.
few Shakur Stevenson body punches that were legal.
Yeah.
I mean, they were very, very low,
Low.
multiple times low.
Well, when Valdez had his best round, I believe it was the 4th or 5th round.
He had a good third round, I think. Third or fourth.
He had Shakur against the corner, and Shakur bent down his level and crashes him right in the balls, man. I'm like,
yeah, you're
not
right.
even a warning. I'm like, come on,
Yeah.
man, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, Bayless is completely clueless.
Yeah,
but once again, this goes down to your team. If you're the Reynosos, what do you say? You don't have to accept that. You can very easily say, no, we object, just like you can object to a judge, you can object to a referee. Yeah. That man had no business being the referee in that fight. His best days are 10 years behind him. He's out of position.
He's compromised. Let's just say it the way it is, bro. He's compromised.
He's very compromised.
Bayless has been compromised. He goes back to the days of Richard Steele when Richard Steele was compromised. The bottom line is, there's a reason why Lawrence Cole only reps in Texas. He's compromised. The sad thing about it is that it's not going to change. And I hate to say this about the Reynosos, especially being the recent revelation that came, but
yeah,
they really don't have any interest in any of their fighters at this point outside of Canelo Alvarez. And that's a sad thing because now they've lost Ryan Garcia. There's going to be some rumbling in the Valdez camp. I guarantee you there's going to be some rumbling. I did like Shakur's statement. I beat the Reynosos. I beat Canelo. Listen, Canelo didn't train Oscar Valdez. Canelo was there and he was just encouraging him. Like,
yeah, Canelo has a fight. Canelo has a fight this week.
Yeah, like all stablemates do. So that's to say that if you get beat, then Terrence Crawford and every other person is on your job. Not to mention the fact that Andre Ward should have been on the broadcast, being the fact that he has a vested interest in Shakur Stevenson. So that's a conflict of interest right there.
Yeah,
And okay, so I also got to say again, I am so sick of these announcers.
Oh, they're horrible,
so
man.
I went back and I watched some old fights. Okay, this last couple of days, I've watched some old fights, literally, and they called the fight like the fight was being, fought. No, one-sided or the other sided. I can't stand watching these fights anymore because you get somebody that's all up on Shakur's jock, and that's all they say. Oh, he landed this, and oh, he landed this, and oh, he landed this. But let's talk about what actually is happening in the actual fight.
Yeah, they're like AJ said, they're compromised as well. They have their talking orders. They have little earpieces in their ear. They're being told what to say and what to focus on. They know that's their job. That's what they get paid to do. They're basically sellouts.
The mute button is my friend. You know what? Because half the time I just mute the mute thing and I watch the fight for the fight. I don't even listen to these idiots anymore. Especially when they start being stupid. And
not only are they hypocritical, but they change horses midstream, like halfway through the fight. I was actually shocked a couple times when Timothy Bradley was actually being complimentary to Oscar Valdez. I was like a couple times, and then 30 seconds later,
he's just doing that to keep people from not tuning out. Because I was about this close to tuning out from the fight because I could tell Oscar had already conceded to what was going to happen. There was no fight in him at all. He didn't have a plan. He
didn't have a plan B, basically.
He didn't have a plan at all, I don't think, bro. I don't know what Oscar was doing. They kept reiterating Shakur's power. I don't see the power they're talking about. The bottom line is
power at all.
Okay, so the thing, and I think I talked to Michael about this, is what? Nothing really against Shakur, but I cannot wait to see the day that he actually gets in there with a fighter that's going to give him some problems, because I can't wait to see him lose.
Well, Shakur needs to be humbled. Some fighters need to be humbled.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he really needs to be humbled, and I can't wait for that day. I want to see it. I truly. I will continue to watch his fights because I want to see the day that he gets humbled.
Yeah, he will. They all do. All of them do. Adrian Broner was the same way, and Marcos Maidana humbled him. He was never the same fighter. It's eventually going to happen. Shakur's a talented fighter, right? He's got good range. He's got good balance. He's got very good reflexes. But one thing he does not have a punch. Because if he had a punch, he outweighed the guy by 15 to 20 pounds. I'm going to say 15 pounds minimum. If he had any resemblance of a punch, he would have dropped or hurt. And that knockdown to me was not a knockdown. It was that wasn't momentum. A knockdown. I don't know, but either way, his time, he's on borrowed time. Watch, he will. The minute he steps up to 135 and realizes that I even have less power now, you'll see.
Yeah. Well, you know the thing that gets me, bro, is this. When you look at guys like Shakur Stevenson and what's going on, you know, it's the repeated narrative every time. You get these fighters, it's the company they keep. It's no different than a kid. They always tell you as a parent, you know, watch the friends that your children make, because a lot of times, you know, it could be the impressions, you know, the things that happen, the things that they see.
They rub off on you.
And when Shakur sees guys, they look at the company he keeps, guys like Terrence Crawford, all these guys. These are guys that kind of like how the world is today. They want you to see what they see. And if you say anything different, then you're just an asshole and you don't know shit, you know, and that doesn't make sense to me, you know. So Shakur needs to be humbled. His team should actually be the one stepping up and saying, hey, listen, we took another good step, but we're not there yet, you know. And at the end of the day, we beat a small guy. We're going to have to step up eventually. We're going to have to fight possibly the Devin Haney's, the Teofimo Lopez, the George Kambosos. These guys are waiting in the wings, and this bullshit isn't gonna fly with guys like that. You know what I'm saying?
And not only that, at the end of the day, he's just a smaller version of Terrence Crawford, a skilled fighter that just can't sell. The bottom line is this: I'm guessing there was at least 75. That place wasn't sold out. And 75% of those people were there for Oscar Valdez.
Oh, absolutely.
Shakur Stevenson, his style is not exciting, right? No. He doesn't lay it all out on the line. I mean, even in just those last 10, 15 seconds when he decided to run.
He runs. That pissed me off.
That pissed the crowd off. That probably even pissed off some of his fans. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, you know, I mean, stand there and fight the fight. I mean, there's ways to avoid engaging without actually turning or running. It's disrespectful.
Yeah, literally running away.
It all catches up to you, though. Trust me, it'll all catch up to him eventually.
I hope
so. It really does. You're absolutely right. You nailed that one, bro.
Well, I want to be there when it happens.
They're saying that the other two champions, one of them is a Japanese fighter, that Eddie Hernandez. The other one is the guy that I think the WBA champion. Mm-hmm. And Bob Arum was quoted saying that, you know, neither one of those guys sell, blah, blah, blah. Well, neither does Shakur. So those fights probably won't happen. So maybe Shakur does test the waters at 135. I think he should go in there. I mean, there's a lot of guys at 135 that probably will happily welcome him to the division. He wasn't too keen. The name Lomachenko came up, and then he wasn't too keen to be disrespectful to Lomachenko. But you know, he left the door open for that. And I find that disrespectful, because guys like Lomachenko's name should not even be in anybody's mouth right now. Should not be in anybody's mouth right now. He's not focused on boxing right now. He's got family, probably. God knows how many family members he may have already even lost in this conflict in Ukraine. There's no reason to even bring him up right now. We may never see Loma fight again. We don't know. This might have such a psychological effect on him, because he knowing that, hey, when this is all said and done, dude, my country, whatever, you know, it's destroyed. It, you know, it's going to take 10 years to rebuild it, and maybe I should focus my efforts on that. Or even if he does go back to training full time and he does continue to fight, where's the focus going to be?
Yeah,
I couldn't do that. Could you guys do that? Could you be somewhere doing something, knowing like that, like back home, there's major tornado watches for the next 3 days in Texas, or you know, there's risk of flooding in Oregon. You wouldn't be able to focus right.
Yeah.
So
no, you're absolutely right, bro. Real quick before we jump into, obviously, you know, we got the big Cinco de Mayo fight coming up this week with Canelo and Bivol, which is going to be, I think, a really good. And the undercard's not that bad.
It's a little iffy for me, the undercard.
I want to talk about something real quick and stuff, because certain things tend to get glossed over. When it comes to certain fighters, and I'm just going to use these, I know we've used these fighters before, but when it comes to guys like Jaime Munguia and other people, any little thing that they do that maybe people don't understand right away, it's a negative thing reflected on them. I want to talk for a minute about Demetrius Boo-Boo Andre. The fact
you know, he pulled out of the fight. Was that?
I'm gonna tell you about. So what happened is, a lot of people aren't aware of it. You know, they were giving guys like Munguia crap about not stepping up and fighting against Janibek, not understanding that Janibek was actually the mandatory for Demetrius Andre. Demetrius Andre decided to vacate his WBO title and step up to 168 pounds, giving no reason other than the fact he didn't want to face Janibek, a guy who has 9 fights in his entire career. So if that's not running, I don't know what is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, is he gets up to 168, and he's once again gifted a world title and to face an unknown, untested Zach Parker from the UK, whose best victory was over a washed-up Vaughn Alexander. Once again, he's going to win a title, you know, over a no-name guy. And who's he going to face at that point? Because honestly, if he was bad at 160 pounds, not wanting to face guys like Charlo, Triple G, Mugia, and others, what do you think is going to happen at 168 pounds if guys like Benavidez, Canelo, Caleb Plant? Caleb Plant was quoted as saying that Demetrius Bivol Andre, they talk about this guy should be a track star. He don't want to fight nobody.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that
he's yet to have a meaningful fight on his entire resume.
He's no, you know, and I know I'm hard on Terrence Crawford for his choices, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to listen to this bullshit. My promotion, bullshit. You make the call. All right. Demetrius Andre is the worst. You look at the people that he's faced. It's absolutely horrible. Matter of fact, Demetrius Andre's last 2 opponents, Liam Williams and Jason Quigley, together, basically, I can go down and see a better fight, you know, over at, you know, the Club Metro in Riverside. It's ridiculous. These guys are one step outside of a club fighter, and these guys get world title shots. I want to know what Zach Parker has done to earn a chance at a vacant title. Because I guarantee you, if you would have handed that opportunity to a guy like a Jaime Munguia or even somebody else that's in there, maybe a Caleb Plant, they would have stepped up and took that opportunity and fought for that vacant title.
Yep.
But instead, it's going to go to Zach Parker. And now Demetrius Andre somehow suffered an injury. He probably found out Zach Parker might be the next Kambosos and didn't want to take that risk. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
I just want to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I agree with you. That's just, it's highly confusing and just very discouraging for a guy that was a so-called world champion for so long.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. So the first Saturday in May is this Saturday, and that means the Kentucky Derby. Who you guys like? Who you like?
Who do you like in that race?
I got to stick with my West Coast horses. I'm going to go with the one that won the San Diego Derby tie, but he's at 12-1 in the morning line, so he's not getting much.
I like
respect,
that one too. That's the one I like too.
but that's one I'm going to go with. So.
Oh, hey, real quick before we jump on the thing, I went to a place called Western Playland. It's Sunland Park.
Yeah, Sunland Park. Yeah,
I was there.
Yeah, how was it?
It's freaking awesome. I was over there. It's like a Knott's Berry Farm. I took the kids. You know, we went over there because Cole had it with the school, and I walked around the racetrack and saw the stable. Dude, I can't wait till the season goes. I'm going to be right there, dude. Took me 15 minutes to get there, dude. I was like, dude, I love this place. Dude, it's nice, man. Nice place. So
let's talk about the big fight that's coming up this weekend. I don't even know.
I thought you asked for Kentucky Derby winners. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Well, look over the form, and then at the end of the show, we'll make our picks.
Okay.
In the Kentucky Derby. All right, let's talk about this fight. Dimitri Bivol. One thing that shocked me, Canelo Alvarez stepping up to 175, taking on Dimitri Bivol. One thing that shocked me, and I'd seen most of Bivol's fights. I've probably seen at least 80% of them. I was actually shocked that he still only has 19 fights in his career, and he feels like he's been fighting forever. He's only got 19 fights. I don't know what happened. I know he was promoted for a while there by Top Rank, right? He was fighting on all the big ESPN cards, and then he switched over to DAZN. He actually was obscure for a little while, and I think he fought once or twice back in Russia, and now he's fighting on DAZN. They make the fight. If you had asked me the Dimitri Bivol 3 years ago beats this Canelo, the one now, I don't know which Dimitri Bivol has even left, and it's not because of overactivity. It's just because of lack of activity, and there's something changed in him, AJ. Like you said, he used to be more of a boxer puncher. Now he's more of like a boxer runner. He doesn't stand flat footed and really, and he's a big guy. He doesn't really stand and sit down on his shots to do any real damage. So my thinking is the way he's going to approach this fight, he's going to jab, move, and he's going to look great doing it for the first few rounds. But I think once Canelo finally catches up to him, he slows the pace of the fight down. I don't think he's going to knock Bivol out, but I think he does just enough to win a decision. That's what I'm thinking for this fight.
Yeah, I went back and, like I said, I've watched a lot of his fights too. I mean, and I always kind of tend to go back to 2 fights that Bivol, actually 3 fights that Bivol fought that were always very interesting to me. And that was his bout against John Pascal, his bout against Joe Smith, and then his bout against Craig Richardson from the UK. In the Pascal fight, a guy who was completely shot, past his prime, everything like this, a fight where Bivol maybe earlier in his career would have finished him, he just didn't. And at times got sloppy and got hit with these just ludicrous punches and stuff. Was never in any serious jeopardy or anything like this. But the fact that it went 12 rounds was kind of embarrassing. And then with Joe Smith, he outboxed Joe Smith. He did what he had to do, but he showed a tendency not to want to engage him because Joe Smith did hurt people in that fight. He did hurt him.
He caught him towards the end of the fight, right?
And then against Richardson, it was kind of a combination where he just couldn't get on track because the guy was he was just a little bit more versatile. He had a nice, he was going to the body a lot, which seemed to bother Bivol a little bit and stuff. And Bivol just never got comfortable, but did enough to win the fight. He was like a smaller version of an Arthur Beterbiev earlier in his career. And he's became very defensive minded in a lot of ways where he's satisfied to just jab, jab, jab and move. And that's what he did against Richardson. I mean, for the last 2 rounds, I don't even think he threw 6 punches. He was just kind of moving around. And I was like, dude, what are you doing, man?
And we said this, I've said this years ago on this show, where I never thought Bivol was a full-fledged light heavyweight. He looks like he could still make 168.
I don't know why he doesn't.
He's not broad on the shoulders. He doesn't really carry a lot of muscle mass. I think he could very well fight at 168.
I do too. I think he could have a great career at 168. One of the things that comes back to me too is, and I know you remember this fight, bro, was back in 2019 when he fought a guy who was actually a pretty good fighter at Leland Castillo. Bivol struggled. I mean, it was one judge actually almost had it, like almost a draw. 2 fights later, Callum Smith stepped up to light heavyweight, and that was the one where he knocked him out devastatingly in the second round, I believe it was. And I was really fearful for the guy's health. Bivol hasn't shown that explosive type of power. And I hate to say it, but against a guy like Canelo Alvarez, you have to do something to take him out of his comfort zone. Drop him, hurt him badly. 2 things you haven't seen happen to Canelo for I can't remember Canelo getting hurt all the way back to when he fought against
Jose Cotto.
Jose Cotto, exactly. It's just, you got to do those things. If people's going to try to take a page out of Caleb Plant, I thought Caleb Plant had, just like Billy Joe Sanders, they both had the right plan. They were jabbing, showing beautiful footwork, moving, being elusive. But once Canelo figured it out, he caught him. It was just a different story. I agree with Teddy Atlas. What Teddy Atlas said. Teddy Atlas said, listen, Demetrius Bivol, people need to stop looking at Canelo Alvarez like he's not a big guy. He's probably one of the strongest guys, even at light heavyweight. He's going to be one of the strongest guys in there. And I think people's underestimating Canelo's strength. Yeah, I think he thinks he's going to go in there. So I think at this point, for Bivol to revert back into a puncher could be a big mistake. I think he needs to stick to the boxing. If the opportunity's there, then punch. You know what I'm saying? But if he goes in there and tries to engage Canelo, he might find himself in deep waters.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's going to do his best to just jab and move. He does have good footwork. He does know how to box well.
He's a little too straight up. I don't like how he kind of arcs his head. And like I said, that telegraphed right hand, how he kind of cocks that thing back. That's right out of the page of Sergey Kovalev. And I'm like, you saw what happened to Kovalev.
Yeah, this is to me, this is a very winnable fight for Bivol, but I don't think he's going to I don't think he's going to take the risks to win it. It's going to take risks to win the fight. And I don't think he's going to take the risks because he hasn't shown the propensity to take risks in his last multiple 4 or 5 fights.
Yeah.
So that's why I said the Bivol 3-4 years ago, I would have picked him over Canelo probably devastatingly, but not now because something changed in his mind. I don't know what it is.
So on a pound for pound ranking, who would you guys? I mean, obviously Canelo's well above Bivol, right?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even have Bivol in my top 10.
Exactly. So when you look at it, boxer to boxer, straight out, who's going to have the game plan to actually succeed in that fight? And I caught Bivol being long, tall, and hopefully being able to get that jab out there, maybe the straight right as well. If he can keep Canelo off and gain, some rounds early, maybe he can outscore him. But we all know that Canelo learns in the ring. every single
Yeah,
round.
he does.
He
He
learns,
does.
he learns, he learns, and he finds a way. Every Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, you name the fight, Canelo has found a way. Even when it didn't look like he was going to be able to, he's found a way to make it happen. And so I personally, I think he's going to make it happen again.
Well, the thing is I look at is that it doesn't really matter whatever Canelo does. He's still going to have his people out there that are going to be against him.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a Canelo fan. You just have to know the sport and look at the fact that the guy has evolved. He's a guy that's worked at his craft. And when you hear some of these people out there, like Timothy Bradley say things like Canelo, kind of took the easy road at 168. Oh yeah. He just fought every single champion at 168 outside of David Benavidez. Most of them were undefeated and took those titles. I don't see any other fighter taking the kind of risks that Canelo's willing to take. You can't get Kyrus Crawford to take on a young undefeated guy. You can't get Triple G to step up to 168. You can't get, a lot of other people to do certain things. So he's always going to get criticized for these things. I think what Bivol's biggest obstacle is going to be, is he ready for this moment? Because I'm going to teach you right now, there's nothing bigger than Canelo Alvarez on Cinco de Mayo. Those fans are going to be insane. Is Bivol, who's never been in the spotlight, going to be like that? Is he going to get that deer in the headlights? Is it going to take 1 or 2 rounds for him to really kind of focus? Because in those 1 or 2 rounds is when he can get himself dug into a pretty deep hole.
Yeah, you're right. And like I said, I think that it's the mental state. Physically, he has all the attributes to win the fight. He could outbox Canelo, landing up hard shots to win the fight, but he won't get the decision, and he's not going to engage and do what's necessary to do that. So Canelo's going to win the mental game after about the first 3-4 rounds. He might have already won the mental game, because I don't think any of us are expecting Bivol to go in there and stand flat-footed and just start trading. If he does, it'll surprise the hell out of me. But we'll see.
I mean, maybe he's working on something that people aren't. But I mean,
well, I saw that he's working with Joel Diaz now. I saw that in the Rivals today. I didn't even know he was working with Joel Diaz.
I like Joel.
I like Joel too, and Joel actually is pretty good at calling fights. He nailed the last few fights I've watched him predict. He's nailed them. He nailed the Terrence Crawford. The Spence fight. He nailed the prediction on that. He did the same thing on the Katie Taylor Serrano fight, and I believe he did the same thing with Stevenson Valdez.
Well, if anybody's going to bring out the punch in Bivol, bring it back, it's going to be a guy like Joel Diaz, who all the Diaz brothers, they all had a really nice. They had good power during their careers. So real quick, before we move on from this, let's get our predictions since we're right there, man. Let's get our predictions. Mike,
I gave mine. I said it's going to be a close fight, but Canelo's going to win a 12-round decision.
What about you, Art?
I'm going to second that.
I'm gonna step outside the box a little bit here, and I see the fight going 2 ways, and I don't want to get long, winded and stuff, but if Bivol takes those risks and is willing to put himself in the line of fire, he just might bring back whatever he possessed before, and he might surprise Canelo. He might do to Canelo what Canelo did to Triple G a little bit in the second round when he just stood toe-to-toe and matched him and physically, and just kind of take that machismo, that ego that he has away from him, and Canelo might have to revert to a different style, which he may not be comfortable doing, which will then give the advantage to Bivol. On the other hand, I think Canelo's at this point kind of tired of all of the talk. He seems like he's always going to be the underdog, which he doesn't have a problem being with the fight lead up. And then it ends up, being the way that he wants it to go. I think Canelo's looking to make a statement in this fight. If Canelo goes in there and really puts a hurting on Bivol and stops him, it's putting a statement out there. You're beating a guy who's class. But I'm going to say it again. Even a Canelo's victory over Bivol, who is Dimitri Bivol? Let's look at the people that he's beaten. I don't care what he did in the amateurs. In the pros, who has he beaten? His best victory was over probably Joe Smith, and Joe Smith lost to Sullivan Barrera. I mean, let's be honest here. So he hasn't really beaten that marquee fighter yet. If people had victories over guys like Arthur Beterbiev and some other fighters, then I would say, yeah, this is a quality victory. But at this point, honestly, Bivol's just another undefeated guy who's going to put another gem in Canelo's crown. And the guy's not really deserving of the credit he's getting right now, because we really don't know what Dimitri Bivol will do against a top class opponent, because he's never faced one.
He only has how many fights did you say, Mike?
19. And at this point in his career, he should have at least
approaching. Do you agree with that, Mike?
28, 29.
Do you agree with that?
I think you can make the case that he got a shot Warren Pascal. He fought. I mean, Joe Smith wasn't past his prime because Joe Smith had better fights.
I said that was his best. That was his best victory. Was Joe Smith.
And Joe Smith is a big guy, physically a big guy. That's probably his best win on his resume. Really, when you think about it, is Joe Smith. And Joe Smith. Nothing against Joe Smith. You gotta love his story, but with the exception of beating up Bernard Hopkins and knocking him out of the ring, Joe Smith doesn't really have anything special. That's what put him on the map. He was basically the B side on that fight. And he basically upset the apple cart, and maybe he took offense to some of Bernard Hopkins' language and
Joe Smith was a guy who just has a big punch and a big heart.
And he was a 40-hour week, whatever he works, steel worker, whatever he does.
I wouldn't consider Joe Smith an A-side fighter. You know, he lost that fight against the Russian guy, Valdiyov, whatever. Like, I felt he lost that fight. At the end of the day, you get outboxed and you lose a unanimous decision where you lose almost every round to a guy like Sullivan Barrera. And I'm not trying to come down on Sullivan Barrera, but honestly, come on. That shows you the level Joe Smith was at. And that is his best opponent. Now let's look at Canelo Alvarez and who he's beaten. You cannot compare anybody, not even Bivol, to Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders has fought top guys. I mean, even a Sergey Kovalev at that stage in his career is still Sergey Kovalev. He hasn't fought those guys. You know what I'm saying? I know maybe he's fought the bigger guys because they've been in a bigger weight class, but just because they're bigger doesn't make them better. Because if those guys were the equal stature, they wouldn't have been successful or had that ranking fight against guys like Miguel Cotto, amongst others. The end of the day is Dimitri Bivol is another fighter. Once again, like I'm going to say, with just a glossy, undefeated record, a good backstory, and a big guy, and it just looks like another big hill for Canelo to climb, and you watch, it's not going to be that tough. It's really not. I mean, that's just the way I feel. I mean, people, anybody can get lucky. It's boxing. But I haven't commentary. I haven't seen.
Hey guys, I got to step away for a minute. Okay, so you guys, I'll be back in a few minutes.
That's a really good commentary, AJ. I mean, quite honestly, you said it all.
Let me just grab. I want to grab myself something to drink right here.
All right, so it looks like it's just me. So we're looking at Bivol.
No. Mom, right here. I just grabbed my drink. Go ahead. Okay, so you were saying.
Anyway, so I went back and I watched a whole bunch of old fights. Okay, and like I was saying earlier about the whole commentary thing, why can't we get back to that? You know what I mean? Why can't we put your feelings aside, put everything aside and actually just call the fight like the fight's supposed to be called?
I hate to say it, bro, it's because we live in a sensitive world, but I'm going to show you how ludicrous.
You know what? It would actually bring more more fans to boxing if people would actually just call the fight like the fight's being called. Yeah, or like it's being done, rather than skewing it one way or the other.
But you see, the problem is in boxing. Boxing doesn't fall in that same realm as sports like basketball, football, and baseball. Yeah. That's a fair weather sport. That's a sport where you have multiple people who are all liking something for different reasons. You know, they like either the quarterback or the wide receiver. In this situation, you got everybody liking the one person for the one thing they do. And let's be honest, most fans that are casual fans only looking for the exciting knockout. We look at the whole entire card, and it's important to us that there's a lot of fights on there because there's going to be fighters you can gauge, fighters that you're going to see that maybe it says is their last shot leading up to the main event. Where most people, especially during a Canelo Alvarez fight, why waste the money? Everybody's going to be getting drunk. They're just waiting for Canelo in the main event. Everybody else up to that really doesn't matter to them, to be honest with you, even though there's a couple interesting fights on the card. But to show you what's really sad is watching these professional boxers, guys who spent the years and being an actual boxer. I'm not talking about guys like Chris Mannix, who's a complete idiot. The guy's never laced up a glove, but yet he'll go toe to toe with Sergio Mora. Right. Talking about the physicalities of boxing. I'm gonna look at this guy. Oh, really? What do you know about that? But it was what I heard out of Sean Porter's mouth the other day. Sean Porter has now stepped into that field of idiots with Timothy Bradley, Andre Ward, amongst others. Yep. And what Sean Porter said, it just really blew me away, because this is not the Sean Porter I remember. So they were talking about Sebastian Fandora, a fighter that we've been talking about now for a few years, way before anybody else was talking about this anomaly from India, from Coachella, about India, whatever, California. Everybody thought he was a circus sideshow, but now he's showing that he's not, based off of his last victory, a very dominating, destructive victory over a quality guy in Erickson Lubin. So he was asked a question: what would happen if Gervonta Davis was to step up and fight Fundora at this stage in his career? Porter turned around and said that Davis is too much for Fundora. We're talking about a guy who's 5'6". Let me try it out. Nobody's going to beat Sebastian Fundora at 154 pounds. Yep. His biggest challenge will come against possibly Tim Tszyu. And I don't want to see that fight because I respect both fighters.
Yeah, I like them both. Yeah.
But there's just something about Fundora where it's kind of like, growing up in boxing and fighting guys, you've never had to punch this way. And guys can't learn at this stage in their career how to punch up. So, some of you trainers out there, maybe you guys should start teaching some of your fighters. You know what I used to learn back in the old days is that's where you get on your knees and you got to punch up to learn how to do things, because not to say you're going to run into a lot of Sebastian Fundoras, but they're out there and he's just one. And you don't think that there's another kid out there right now that is a tall, lanky kid and he's not very good at basketball. And they're saying, hey, you know what? Because you're too light in the ass. Well, guess what? You just might be the next Towering Inferno, So
that's true.
It is what it is. But I mean, to hear a guy like Sean Porter say stuff like that just really, really made me lose a lot of respect for him. And, to hear him say things like, I'm done in boxing, but if I do come back, I want this. I said, Sean, I really hope you come back to boxing. So I can watch you get knocked out this time.
Yeah.
Really knocked out. Not the money on the side bullshit that you did with Terrence Crawford, whatever that. And I hope it was worth it because you lost a lot of fans, a lot of respect.
Tons of fans.
I know your dad's been real quiet. I guess he's enjoying money he got.
That was
back whatever he's doing and stuff. But
that's just
me.
That whole thing was just like, what was the over and under? Wait,
it was right spot. It was right spot on, bro.
But I mean, within seconds.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
I hope his dad's enjoying all that cash he made.
I hope they both are.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about a little bit about something real quick, bro. Before Mike gets back here. So let's go here to the fight coming up, obviously, with Dimitri Bivol. We got a couple of fights on the undercard. One fight that I was particularly looking at was a fight between Montana Love and Gabriel Valenzuela. Montana Love, you're gonna see who he is. He's another Josue Vargas, like the guy who got knocked out by Chon Zepeda, another big mouth who already thinks he's the best thing in the world. No one's gonna beat him, and blah 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 blah, whatever like that. Not to say that Valenzuela is a monster, but he's a decent fighter at 25-2. But he's got 15 knockouts. Montana Love has shown a little bit of a tendency to get hit. I'm sure this will be another victory where he'll be able to coast to an easy decision because, his victory, Montana Love's victory over Ivan Baranchak, to me, honestly meant nothing. Baranchak was completely damaged goods after the Chon Zepeda fight. And he hasn't really shown anything, other than his fight against Carlos Diaz, but we'll see what happens with that.
I know nothing about this guy. So, let's not talk about him much. Isn't Chon going to be fighting soon?
Yeah, I'll let Mike talk about that, but there's another fight that's on here too that the guy who's fighting, I think you might have seen him fight, and I don't know why they're showing it, something changed, but the big Chinese heavyweight that I think is absolutely atrocious, that Zhang, whatever his name is, who he is? He's 23-0. He was supposed to fight against the Fritz Hopchik, whatever his name is. They're showing it as a TBA now, so I don't know what happened with that fight. But other than that, the rest of the card is pretty forgettable. Yeah. Literally, it's to the point.
They don't need. You see, Michael hit the nail on the head when he said this. So, and I think it was you. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
They don't care what the undercards are on this particular one because you know what? They're going to pay the $75 or $80 or whatever it is for the pay-per-view to see Canelo Alvarez. That's it. He draws the money, period.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So they can pay these other guys penance. Nothing to get up there and fight because nobody's going to be paying attention to it anyway. You know, hell, the damn stadium's probably not even going to be full until the Canelo Alvarez fight starts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would much rather. I mean, I'd love to be there for the Canelo Alvarez fight, to be able to actually sit down and watch or commentate on it. That'd be great. But as far as all the undercards, I'd rather be somewhere in Southern California or Texas or Las Vegas or Riverside, California, watching local fights, because at least they have heart. You know what I mean? There's
Mike, because we're about over the hour, almost done with the hour, but I'll just briefly talk about it. Obviously, we got a couple weeks, we got another big fight coming up in the rematch between Brian Castano and Jamel Charlo, which is another one. We could talk about that on Sunday, though.
Okay.
But it looks like right now, if I'm correct, and this is what Mike was telling me, it looks like Josh Taylor had a mandatory against a local UK fighter or something. I don't really know much about the guy, but for some reason, the bottom line is Josh Taylor's not going to fight Chon Zepeda. He's decided to go a different route. So it looks like it's going to end up being possibly Chon Zepeda fighting against Ramirez, who he had previously fought before, you know, that a lot of people felt Chon won the fight, including myself, Mike, and others, to fight for the vacant title. As long as Chon gets that opportunity. I have to say right now, I'm so disappointed in Josh Taylor. To me, Josh Taylor has lost all the credibility that he worked so hard leading up to the Super
and
6.
He did. He worked really hard for that. You know what? I mean, the fights
he won these titles.
These
titles legitimately. And then just to throw all of that out the window, especially after his, his atrocious, decision that he got just recently over what's his name? Eluding me right now. I feel.
Hey, fellas.
Hey, Mike. We were
Mike,
talking
the last Josh Taylor fight. Who was that?
Jack Cantrell. I'm sorry.
Catterall.
Yeah, okay.
Catterall. God damn it. What was that?
I got just a couple of minutes, guys. I apologize. I have a contractor here, so I need to get.
I'm actually going to pull away from the conversation, Mike. We were talking about Chon Zepeda and possibly the next thing, because obviously next week, in a couple of weeks on the 14th, we got Jamel Charlo going up in his rematch against Brian Castano, but we could talk about that on Sunday. Why don't you kind of give us an update on what's going on with the Josh Taylor title things and all that kind of stuff?
I'll be real brief. I know that Zepeda was in promotion offices, and they're now negotiating. He's been ordered to negotiate Josh Taylor's been ordered to negotiate for the WBC strap. Josh Taylor, the belts are going to go like this. They're going away. WBA, TGB did a purse bid on the WBA belt. If Josh Taylor doesn't fight this Puerto Rican guy, Puello was his name. If he doesn't fight him, he's going to get stripped. And then so Josh Taylor will not be undisputed much longer. Those belts are going to go by the wayside. And I don't think he's going to accept the Chon Zepeda fight. He's going to say too much risk, not enough reward. Chon Zepeda's going to probably end up fighting Ramirez again for the vacant title. And if Chon Zepeda is out there listening, or I'm going to make sure to reach out to his team, do not fight that fight anywhere near Ramirez's hometown. You are the A side in this fight. You were the B side last fight. Do not go anywhere near Fresno.
He's the higher ranked fighter.
He's the higher ranked fighter. He has the more prominent wins the last 2-3 years of his life. 2 fights of the year. You know what I mean? Coming off of two big knockout wins. Baranchek, Josue. I mean, he needs to be smart. And his team,
he needs to be smart, bro.
Reach out to him, Michael. You got to reach out to him and talk to him.
Mike nailed it perfectly, bro. You look at all the great fighters, man. Guys like Costa Zoo and all these other fighters, they all made that mistake. They gave the opponent the advantage. This is Chon's day. It's not Ramirez. Ramirez already got a decision one time, won a title, lost the title. Chon's the A side. He's got to step up to Chon. And Zepeda's, these guys can't continue to give away all those advantages, you know? Put yourself in your comfort zone. Don't make it to where you gotta go somewhere and make yourself comfortable. That's too much energy. All that energy could be used in reserve back at home.
Yeah, you're right. He can't. He absolutely cannot. But
and anyways, if they make those mistakes, then they got to kick themselves in the ass.
Yeah, if he makes those mistakes again, just like Oscar Valdez made the mistake of having Kenny Bayless in there, allowing that to happen. If he allows that to happen, if he allows it to be, I'm not sure with the fight. I'm sure it'll be somewhere here in California, or Vegas is probably where it belongs to be. Does not need to be in Fresno. Does not need to be here in LA. It needs to be in Vegas.
I don't care if it's in Texas.
Somewhat neutral, but you're right. He cannot afford to He's got to know his worth.
Exactly, bro. And you know what? The thing that's really sad, and I'll let you. We're gonna end it right now. Is everybody's kind of forgot about Catterall. Here's a guy that went in there and deserved the championship. He should be the undisputed champion right now, because that's it right now. Catterall would have had no problem accepting the fight with whoever they were going to put it. Because Catterall, to me, is got that same mentality as like George Kambosos. You know, he worked his ass off. He got no credit going into this fight and did what he did. And then Taylor's antics afterwards and what he's shown is just really damaged, I feel, his character. So he's got a lot of repair to do, and avoiding guys and not willing to take the risk against like Jones Zepeda. Don't put yourself in the pound for pound list in your division if you're not willing to step up and fight against the best in the division.
Yep.
You're right. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, yes, that was probably the worst Josh Taylor we've ever seen. But was it because he was maybe overestimating Catterall or whatever? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Catterall won the fight, but you're right. These belts are about to go. You remember like back when you were younger, what was it? You put something in water and then you drop dish soap in it and it all scattered. Remember that? Well, that's what's going to happen with these belts. They're going to get scattered everywhere.
There is one thing. Yeah. I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's it. And I feel bad for Catterall because his name's not even being mentioned for a rematch. It's not being mentioned to fight any of these. The powers that be, the WBAs and TGB have teamed up. Mauricio Suleiman and Zanfer have teamed up. And Bob Arum, those guys have teamed up to get Chon versus Ramirez again. I mean, everybody's just like, okay, well, they went like this. Woo, that was a close call. Okay, now let's separate all these belts. Because if Catterall would have won all those belts, he would have at least been given the option, right? They're not even going to give these guys the option now. It's the same thing they did to Tyson Fury when Tyson Fury beat Klitschko. Within days, the WBO said, you got to now fight this guy. It's like, dude, he's still sobering up from the after party, and they're telling him, you got to fight this guy now. And that's the disgusting part of boxing that it just pisses me off. But I think Jones Zepeda and Jack Catterall should fight for the belts.
I got a better thing, man. If they're not going to give Jones Zepeda and Catterall, because I really don't want to see them fight each other because I like both fighters. I'll tell you what, there's somebody who's clamoring for a title shot. Let Catterall fight for the vacant title against Teofimo Lopez, who's been asking to go to that. Make it happen. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Catterall knock his ass out.
Yep.
I mean, hey, so real quick before you go, Kentucky Derby, real fast.
Taiba. I got Taiba.
You got Taiba?
Darn it. I had the number 11 horse. Darn it. What was that? Shoot.
I'm gonna go with Taiba. I'm gonna stick with the West Coast San Antonio Derby winner.
I think it was
Taiba.
God darn it. Hold on. I'm pulling it up right now. Sorry.
It's all right.
Who do you like, AJ?
You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
I'm stuck between two. I like the horse out of Japan, Crown Pride.
The Japanese horse, yeah.
The Japanese horse. I like Tiz the Bomb.
Tiz the Bomb.
McPeak. I don't know what
Kenny
it is,
McPeak.
Matt. Yeah. I mean, I think the horse's odds are way too long. I mean, the horse is a hell. I'm just saying, man. I mean, I like the fact that he's a backstretch run. I mean, you never know. But I like that horse Taiba too. I'm always going to be the West Coast guy, but McPeak's a good trainer.
I just wish Flavian Pratt was on it, but you know who's on Taiba is Mike Smith. Mike Smith knows how to win those big races. So
yeah, I don't got a lot of, that's going to turn me off of him right there because I didn't want to see Mike Smith get any more success after his debacle was in Yada back in the Breeders' Cup. So it is what it is.
Eric, what do you got? I got to go.
I'm almost there. God darn it. Shoot. I'm sorry.
Just pick one out of the.
Don't worry about it. The number 11 horse.
Whoever the number 11 horse is. All right, guys. I got to get
real quick. You know what my son picked?
Who?
Cyberknife.
Of course he did. Of course, because it's cyber. Of course.
That's what he picked.
Yeah. All right. Well,
all right, Mike.
What, like 30 to 1? I think Cyberknife's 30 to 1 or something like that. Some crazy. Put $5 on it.
At the end of the day, man, there's money to be made in the Kentucky Derby. Pick the horse that comes in second, third, or fourth, and I guarantee you're going to make money.
Yep.
Only race of the year that you're going to make money, guaranteed. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us and tuning in for End of the Ring Live. We'll be back on Sunday to talk about this weekend's fights. Good luck to everybody out there. Have a good, safe week, brothers. I'll talk to you guys again offline. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the share button. Post us on.
Let them know too. We're going to be moving our platform over to Rumble, everybody. So be
very soon for that.
Yeah,
very soon. So yeah, we'll definitely give everybody updates on that. All right, guys. For all of us at Enter the Ring Live, your hosts, Mighty Mike,
AJ Rage,
and Eric the Red.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Love you, bros. Guys, be safe, guys.
Love you guys. Take care.